Girls Talk Shirts. That was the first time we didn't do the head bob.
I know. I barely even looked at you on that one because I was focusing on moving my microphone.
Without making noise.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Welcome to this week's episode of Girls Talk Shirts. I am Savannah, if anybody forgot.
And I am Emily. I have had somebody tell me that our voices sound very similar and cannot tell
I don't hear that
the difference between us. This voice that you're hearing right now is Emily's voice.
And this is Savannah's voice.
So if you get confused, just rewind back to this part and listen to
it over and over.
All right. So this week we are wanting to talk about relationships, specifically romantic relationships. I think we could also eventually do an episode about friendships because we all know how important those are. I mean, we've got one going right here. But yeah, so this week is romantic relationships. So I'm going to start this week. This is Emily again talking. So if you're confused, this is Emily giving you her story of romantic relationships. I'm just going to dive right in and let you know I have had very few romantic relationships, which I think is fine. You know, you don't have to go out there and be, talking to everybody, kissing everybody, doing all the things. You know, it is perfectly normal to have one or two relationships. And that is me. Okay, so to get started, yes, I have had very few relationships. And I guess on one side, that was maybe me being a little picky of who I wanted to talk to and actually open up to. Because I've never been an open book. Like, I've never really opened up to a lot of people. I think it takes me a long time to get to that point with somebody. But also, growing up, I had a really low self-esteem. I didn't ever feel like the pretty girl in the group of friends. It took me years to figure out how to properly use a straightener so my hair could look decent. I had very crooked, messed up teeth for a while. I did not get braces until the summer, right before the 10th grade. Literally right before the 10th grade. So going into the 10th grade, my teeth still looked really bad. They just now had these massive brackets on them. And I never had people telling me that I was pretty on a regular basis or on a semi-regular basis. It just wasn't the thing. And if you know me at all, I have always been overly sarcastic. I have really reined it in over the last few years, but especially in high school, that was my shtick. I was the sarcastic one, slightly mean one, funny one, because I was not the pretty one. And Savannah and I talked about this in length before we finally hit record today. There just were there were friends at school for myself that were definitely, at least from my point of view, prettier than me. But even in our friend group at church, there were just these other girls in our friend group that I was like, they are the pretty ones, and it's not me. I've always been able to get along with guys. I grew up with all brothers. I have 4 brothers, 0 sisters. So I've always been very comfortable around guys. I can be one of the guys easily. I was a huge tomboy as a kid. And so I always had plenty of guy friends, but I very rarely did any of them ever look at me in a slightly romantic way.
Right.
And I think for the most part, it didn't really bother me, but I would be lying if I said that it didn't hurt my feelings to not be the one always having guys wanting to talk to me or something, and so I just never really had anything to make me feel worthy of a relationship with somebody. And then when I would get some little attention from somebody, I would hold on to that. And I did what the kids used to call, I don't know what they call it anymore, but I would talk with people, and I'm doing air quotes around talk.
You were talking.
Talking with a few people here and there, like throughout being in high school, but nothing super serious, because that's not what talking is. Mm-hmm. Talking is literally just...
It's what you do before
talking.
Dating.
Yes. Yeah.
Until you both make the decision to date, you talk.
Yeah. Until you both get to the point to where, like, I like you. Do you also like me? To everything. And like, you actually put like a title on the relationship. So I did that with several people throughout high school, but nothing ever super serious. And again, didn't ever really hurt my feelings, but also like, no, I mean, just nobody was asking me out, you know, like it never did get to that point. They never did like me enough to get to that point. And that does, like, I think, like, subconsciously affect you. And there was somebody that I was in lust with. I was just so in love with the idea of this person. And he was a little bit older, a little bit of a bad boy kind of vibe. You know, like, I definitely knew, like, not a good influence type of person, but I thought he was hot stuff, and I wanted to be around him all of the time. And that potential of a relationship with that person, like, I let that hold me in a certain place for years. And there would be little times here and there when we would talk and hang out and, like, late night, you know, Zoom calls and whatnot and all of these things. And I just thought, like, if I just keep on, you know, doing what I'm doing and, you know, giving him, you know, the attention that he clearly wants, then he will eventually give me what I want, which is an actual relationship with him.
Right.
And then that never happened. The last time him and I really kind of hung out, I thought, like, this is it. Like, shortly after this, he's going to ask me out. And then he just never talked to me again. And that was really difficult for me to understand, like, why now drop me after, I mean, it's been a couple years now of us going kind of like back and forth, you know, why am I not good enough or pretty enough? And so that was really difficult for me to kind of get over. And then I met my husband, like, not intentionally. Like, I honestly, like, when I was first approached with the idea of potentially meeting my husband, I was still, like, trying to talk to this other guy. And I had no intention of, like, I don't want to give this other person, like, my number, because I'm still trying to reel in this other other fish over here, you know? And then I just finally got to the point where I realized, like, God keeps taking away this other person because he's not right for me. Like, he's not a good influence. And so that's when I gave my coworker my phone number to give to her brother-in-law. And that's where the story, you know, doesn't end. That's where really my story begins. That's when my husband and I started texting. And then it was like on a Tuesday night, we started texting. The next Friday, we were going out on a blind date.
Oh, so you guys talked, like, texted for a few days before. I never knew that. I thought you guys maybe had texted just to say, like, think of, like, a time or whatever for your date. I didn't know you guys actually, like...
Yeah, no, it was actually, I know, because I went to Merge that week with Morgan, which Merge was the young adult group at our church that met once a week. And I went to that, and I had just given my coworker my phone number to give to him. And he started texting me, and we just started texting every single day until that first date, just a couple days later. And it was so easy talking with him. Like I didn't feel like forced. Like it was just such easy conversation. And we could have like cute little banter stuff, like going back and forth. And I was like, I've never talked with somebody like this before. Like, this is weird. And then on our first date, he made me feel so comfortable, which I was very, like, I mean, I can't stress enough, like, how weird it was that I even agreed to do this, like to go out with somebody that I did not know. And I let him take me all the way to Tampa. Like, we're so far away from home. Like, what if he murders me? I don't know, but
yeah,
he did me.
It threw me off a bit.
He made me feel so comfortable, and he made me feel seen. He made me feel pretty, which, as silly as that feels for me to say, like, it was so big for me because
but you weren't used to it.
Yeah, I wasn't used to it. I didn't have that before. And honestly, at first it was very, very overwhelming because I did not know how to have that type of attention and to be able to reciprocate it back to him. And I don't know. So at first, like, it was difficult for me to truly accept it as real. And there would be times when I almost felt like I just need to push this away, that it's too good to be true. But I fell for him so instantly. And even that was scary because I was like, what if this isn't right? And I'm just like setting myself up for failure in a sense, but I wasn't. I mean, we've now been married for 10 years, been together for almost 12 years. In May will be when we went on that very first blind date together. And yeah, it's just, he has helped me so much with knowing my worth and knowing that I am pretty. I don't want to cry about it. I have never been like a crier.
This
until like
is pulling it out of
until
you.
like recent years. It's like, I don't know. It's almost like my body's like, listen, we've held in a lot of tears over your lifetime. We got to start letting some of this out. But it is an emotional thing to know like how much my husband truly has done for me. And as cheesy as that sounds, like it, I don't know, it just is so special when you find that person, even when you go your whole life not feeling worthy or like you ever could be somebody that somebody else could look at and be like, man, I really want to be with her. I honestly thought like for the longest time that like I was going to be like one of those people like that's in like the church that's always like helping out in the church, doing whatever needs to be done in the church. And they're like always like single, like older people that just like never got married, you know, but they're doing the Lord's work, like, which I think is good. Like, thank you, Lord, for those people. But like, I honestly thought like, that's going to be my life. Like there's never going to be somebody that wants to be with me in that way because I just didn't have anybody ever telling me that I was good enough for that.
Was there any point at the beginning of you and Anthony's relationship that you really had the conversation of, you know, is this too good to be true? Like you were just telling yourself, like, when is something bad going to happen? Like,
yeah, I mean, there would be nights like after like dates that we would have and he would drop me off at home and I would just be in bed like, there's no way that like he's like a real person and like, and like truly this good. And there was one night I remember, I don't know if he remembers this, but there was one night when like, it's not so much that I was trying to like break up with him because I didn't want to break up with him, but I would like, just like be asking like, surely you're going to get to a point to where like, you don't like me. Like I'm not enough for you. Like Right. You need more. Like you're about to go off to law school. You're going to find somebody there that is smarter than me doing law stuff just like you and whatnot. And he like kept reassuring me like, no, I don't want that. Like I want you. You are smart. Like you can do so. Like you're smarter than me. Like you can do so much. Like he has always appreciated my faith and whatnot, which is also difficult because definitely like when I met him, like my faith wasn't as strong as it had been in the past because of how low I was at that point. Just because of like the struggle after high school, like we talked in the previous episode. Mm-hmm. But that was something that he would always point out to me of like my relationship with God. And I think that is almost kind of like what got me back on track was him seeing something in me that I didn't see myself. But yeah, not having the self-esteem that I needed to know my worth. Mm-hmm. I just want other people who might be listening to this, if you are also struggling, I guess just like with knowing where you're going, even if it's not like some sort of romantic relationship type of thing, you are worthy of everything. Mm-hmm. Not for any other reason other than we are all children of God. And for that reason alone, we are worthy. Mm-hmm.
The world doesn't dictate.
Yeah.
Any of that.
And that was something that took me until meeting Anthony to realize. I put so much, you see so much on TV and movies of what you're supposed to look like, how you're supposed to act, what guys want. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't measure up to any of that. I didn't have what those girls had. I wear glasses.
I love your glasses.
I know that that's not like a big thing, but there are little things that happen in movies and TV shows when they take the glasses off of the girl and then all of a sudden everybody thinks she's pretty. Mm-hmm. That, as somebody that has had glasses since the 3rd grade, that is difficult to see on TV. Mm-hmm. That movie, She's All That or whatever with Freddie Prinze Jr. Literally the main thing that they do to her in that movie is take off her glasses.
Yeah.
And give her a haircut. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what the heck? Why can't she still wear the glasses and be considered pretty? Mm-hmm. As silly as that is. Like what? That is so hard growing up and seeing. There's an episode of Boy Meets World. I don't know if you've ever watched that show. There's an episode of Boy Meets World when Corey needs a date to some dance and they find a nerdy girl. She has really long, pretty hair and wears glasses. And the only thing that they do is take off her glasses and then she becomes popular. Mm-hmm. Like, what the heck? Why can't we just have a pretty girl who wears glasses? Like, come on. Like, just because you wear glasses doesn't mean you're some nerdy person. I wear glasses because I can't see, not because I'm a nerd.
Well, I don't know why there's these stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just because it's kind of along the same lines of, if somebody thinks that you're not like a smart person, like you can't wear glasses because that's only for smart people. Mm-hmm. And that was always something that like I never understood, like why why do smart people...
Yeah, why do all the nerds
like why are they the only ones allowed to wear glasses when honestly they can't see. It has nothing to do with their brain capacity. Yeah. And
if I was that smart, I wouldn't need the glasses to see what was written on the board. I would just already know everything.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway,
yeah.
I don't know if that really touched a lot on relationships or if that was more so of just my struggle with self-esteem, I guess.
Well, I feel like that relationship in high school, it kind of, what it felt like was it was filling a void.
Yeah.
And which obviously it wasn't, but it was filling a part that you hadn't had before. You hadn't had somebody give you attention in that way. And, you know, that person made you believe that that was the only way you could get it. Yeah. Was to give them attention so then they could give it back to you. And, you know, I don't think you could see how toxic it was until you were shown actually what real love was.
Yeah.
And obviously when Anthony came along, he showed you that. And I think that's why it scared you because it was different.
Yeah.
And, you know, you were made to believe that toxic relationship, that's what love is. That's what a relationship should be. So this can't be real. This person who's being nice to me, who's telling me I'm pretty, who's, you know, giving me this positive attention, that can't be real. That, you know, and so I think seeing how that relationship in high school, you know, changed your perspective of things, I think it made your relationship with Anthony, you know, that much stronger because you had to overcome more.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what I think. But I think all of that talked about your relationship. I think it said a lot about your relationship because I'm sure that was also, you got to look at it from Anthony's perspective. Like he didn't know, you know, what you had gone through. He was just being himself. He was just, you know, treating you the way that he felt you should be treated.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what you had gone through previously. He didn't know why his actions may have not scared you, but I mean, scared you in the sense of, you know, thinking that something was going to happen. He was going to, you know, all of it was a lie. You know, I'm sure all of those thoughts, you know, came through your head at some point. But I think him helping you get past all of that and those hard feelings is what built your relationship. And it made you, we're 10 years marriage down the road. And I think that strong foundation is what helped that and what has encouraged that relationship.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Yeah. Would you like to talk now?
So I, like Emily, I didn't date a lot of people when I was in like middle school, high school. I had a lot of people around me who they were, you know, like Emily said, like kind of the pretty ones. And I was just kind of there. I got along with guys very easily, but I wasn't the one that like they were trying to date. I was just that one that they could be, you know, good friends with, which was fine. I enjoyed it. I like being a friend to everybody if I can. So I was fine with it. But I didn't have my first like actual relationship till my senior year of high school. That kind of went on and off for a couple of years. And then I got into a serious relationship, which then ended after several years. And after that relationship, I was pretty broken. The ending to it was very abrupt. The day before, everything was completely fine. At least it seemed completely fine. And then the next day, it wasn't fine anymore. And so it was hard mentally for me to kind of move past it because I was just in a place of, I don't know how to be alone. And also it took me so many years to get into a serious relationship like that. Now I've been in a serious relationship for all these years. How do I start over? And I went through a pretty dark time. It was for about a year and a half that it was just a pretty dark place that I was in. And I turned to all of the wrong things and all of the wrong people. But I did eventually get to a point where, I just needed to lean on God and lean on the good people and the good things He had already had in my life that I had pushed away. And once I did that, I really made progress into becoming just a better version of myself. I got to rekindle friendships. I got to rekindle relationships with my family. And a lot of good came from that. A lot of growth came from that, I guess I should say. But there was a solid year and a half that I was not in a good place. And then about 2 years and some change after all of that was when I just happened to be on a dating app, and Aaron's precious face came along. And I don't remember if you swipe left or if you swipe right, if you like them, but whichever way you swipe to like them, that's what I did. And I was telling Emily earlier, actually, it was ironic that we're having this talk today because it came up on my memories, that today was the first time Aaron and I talked, 5 years ago. He sent me a picture of himself, and that picture popped up on my memories today. So, today, 5 years ago, was the start of, the greatest time of my life. And I've said this to Emily, I've said this several times actually, but, when it came to my love life, it's been very high, low in times, but I would do it all again if it meant that it led me to the life that I have currently. And, in one way it's hard to say that because I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but you don't see, like I mentioned earlier, you don't see how toxic something can be until you're not in it anymore and you're looking back on it. And, something that I mentioned to Emily earlier was that relationship I was in. Looking back on it now, I see so many instances that there was red flags going up. And I truly feel like that was God saying, this isn't what I have for you. And I ignored every single one of them. And, I look back, there was even friends that pointed it out that said, I don't think this is the relationship you should be in. And I ignored it. And it got to a point where I truly feel like God was just like, I'm going to remove you from it. And I mean, I like to think there could have been a better way for that to have happened, but the abruptness of it is what maybe helped get me away from it quicker. But through the really dark time, there eventually became light. And that started even before I met Aaron, because I wanted to, before I, started to really try to date people, I wanted to be in a place where I was satisfied by myself. Like I could be alone and it was okay. And, there was people around me in these long-term relationships, people getting engaged, and, you want to be so happy for them. But there's also that point of view that's like, I was just in this happy era, what I thought was happy. And now I'm not, but you don't see, like, I thought I was happy so many different instances of my life, but I have not experienced true happiness until I met Aaron. And, for those that know my relationship with Aaron, it's been full steam ahead from the first date. And even on our first date, we both talked about our goals and our aspirations and our just wants for life. And we knew that if this was going to be a relationship, it was going to probably move fast, because we had both been in long-term relationships, serious relationships. So we knew what it was in life that we wanted, what we didn't want. And, even like I said, that first date, we talked about goals, and I mentioned nursing school, and Aaron was like, we're going to figure out a way. Like, we're going to get you back in school. And so you don't see, I couldn't see what true happiness was until I was actually in it. And I look back on it now, and like I said, I would go through it all again if it meant that it led me to Aaron and gave me the relationship I have with him and just everything we've been able to accomplish together. And yeah, it's kind of my spiel.
I love it. I love that you guys found each other. And I remember the hurt that you were in when the other relationship ended. And I hated that for you. I hated that you were going through that, because I know that at a time you thought that was your forever, And so I was sad for you that you had to go through that, but I absolutely love all that you have been able to do since meeting Aaron. He has truly been so encouraging of you, for you to go back to school and get your nursing degree and to do all that you're doing. And I am so happy that you were able to find each other. And I really do think that it really was all part of a plan and a purpose to get you to where you are now, as a mom and as a nurse. And yeah, I'm just so happy for you.
Yeah. And I was going to say this earlier and then I started talking, but I think of when you first met Anthony often. When I see you guys together, I think about when you guys first met. And I was around for that previous relationship, and I was around for the beginning of you and Anthony as well. And it goes back to, you don't truly understand happiness until you're in it. And you don't see happiness in the people that you love until you know that they're in it. And I always could see the happiness you felt with Anthony, even from the first date. And because I remember talking to you after the first date, and just, it's one of those things where you can tell when people are smiling whenever they talk. And even through a phone call, I remember it so distinctly, of the whole time before, at the beginning of you and Anthony's relationship, was anytime you would talk about him or something you guys did, like you're just always smiling. And that has never gone away in almost 12 years. So, it just goes back to, I hope somebody who's listening to this, if you're feeling discouraged in a relationship, maybe it's not the relationship for you. And if you think that you're happy now, just wait till you're in a place where God is working, until you're in a relationship that God has his hand over, then you feel true happiness. And it's like nothing you've ever experienced. I don't know if I said that clearly, but
no, I picked up what you were throwing down.
Yeah.
I agree. If you are in a relationship and you are having to tell yourself that you are happy,
I don't think you're happy.
I don't think you are truly happy. People around you, your closest friends, should be able to see that you are happy. If you're having anybody that you love and trust telling you that they don't think that the relationship that you're in is good for you, then don't just get defensive. Maybe just take the time to take a step back and really kind of evaluate where you are at and where are you headed.
Right.
Is it where you really want to be going? Is it a path that you really want to be on?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it can be scary, especially if you are in a committed relationship. It can be scary thinking about, well, maybe this isn't right, you know? But you don't want to get too far down that path to where then there is no way out, you know?
Yeah. And also just don't let a relationship dictate how you see yourself and what you think you deserve in life. Because I know when I was going through just feeling very alone, just very down on myself, I had it in my mind that there is no way somebody could love somebody like me. And, going through middle school and high school of not having like those long relationships, like friends around me, even though, yes, in high school and middle school, do they usually last? Not all the time. But it was cool to see people around you having those kind of relationships at such young ages. And for me to not really have any of that till senior year, which was when I first had my real boyfriend, like real first boyfriend. And, thinking that you are not good enough because of how somebody else has made you feel is just, it's a horrible feeling of thinking that you're not worthy of people simply because of the words of somebody else. And, I hold on to, what does God think of me? And am I worthy enough of him? And that's, at the end of the day, that's who I want to be worthy to, is to be loved by God. And it is an absolute perk to also be incredibly loved by my husband and to feel so incredibly loved by my husband, because it is a feeling that I never thought I was going to find and that I was going to have. And he is absolutely my godsend. He was my bright light in a very dark place. And he was part of my plan and that God had for me. And I truly believe that. And I think I had to go through a point in my life where I was down to truly appreciate when somebody showed me love. I didn't know how to accept it or reciprocate it. And he helped me through that. And yeah, so I don't want anybody to rely on their self-worth based on how a previous relationship, that words came from that person of the previous relationship. So,
and I also want to add, I think a big thing to have in any relationship is having a firm foundation in the Lord and in His Word. I think that having that firm foundation, you will not fail. And sometimes it's not always perfect, but I do think trying your best to work on that, whether it, you guys have to schedule a time to just truly like pray together or do a devotion together. Like, I think always just keeping God in the center of your relationship is the best way to go. Keeping God first in your individual life. And then also when you are in a relationship, I don't want to, you truly cannot fail, because God will always be there with you, guiding you through every decision, like getting married and then, buying a house, starting a family, all of the things business wise and everything. I think it is so important to have that foundation in the Lord and in the Word to really guide you through everything that you will encounter in life.
I agree.
So let's move on to a little lighter side.
Subject.
We're about to finish. We have gone a little bit over our recommended time, but that is okay. Let's move on to shirts.
So we were talking earlier about shirts, and specifically, we both obviously have children. Children clothes sizing, specifically shirts,
terrible,
are awful. They, alongside with adult clothing, in the sense of there is not a universal sizing, because you go to one store and look for a toddler shirt and you'll get a 3T, and then you'll go to another store and get a shirt that is a 3T, and they're completely different sizes. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Yes. Why? It's like, I don't know who's making the shirts. I guess all different types of companies. But it's like they all have the same philosophy of, we're just going to make it this size, and if your child can fit in it, great. If they can't, get the next size up or down and hope that one works.
Yeah, like why is there not universal measurements that say, hey, this is a size of a 3T? But then again, like we were talking earlier, every toddler, every person is different sizing. And like you mentioned earlier, in adult sizing, it's not based on your age. I'm not getting a 31 adult. Like you get it based on your size.
Yes.
So why
can't we introduce the same philosophy into our children's clothes?
Mm-hmm.
We have 4-year-old girls. Great. Over here is where you can find 4-year-old clothes sizes, whether they are short, tall, skinny, maybe a little bit bigger, mm-hmm. Like why can't it be just like that? Like it's a 4T, but it's like of the 4T, small, medium, large in that way, mm-hmm. Why?
Or like petite and long,
yes.
Things like that. So if you're a little bit shorter, things are going to be the proper length on you. Whereas if you go over here and you get this size that's a long, it's obviously going to fit a child who is taller, or you have a regular size for a somewhat regular size.
Yeah, like a more average size kid.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
I don't know. And then you've got these things that are like 100% cotton that start to shrink. And so you have to be careful with the way that you wash and dry. And am I supposed to be hanging everything? Are they all supposed to hang dry?
I don't hang anything.
I don't hang any. I did for a time. When we were in Kentucky, I was looking through every piece of clothing as I was moving it from the washer into the dryer. And if it said 100% cotton, I hung it up. And then everything else, I just put on like a low heat dry cycle. Now I just put everything on a low dry heat cycle for my children's clothes.
Unpopular opinion, everything gets washed together. Everything.
Like color-wise,
I don't separate anything.
I separate the whites. Like our towels are white. I do that separately.
Nope. I don't separate anything. Literally nothing. If there's towels in the laundry, the towels are getting washed with the clothes. If
you don't have separate baskets?
I do. I have. But see, my basket, it's one thing, but there's two sides. And I have made one side, like, okay, towels, one side clothes.
And then you just put them all in.
But then by the time I'm going to wash them, there's either not enough clothes, so I need to add towels to make it a decent load.
Well, because I do it on a quick cycle if there's not enough in there. No. I always do. Like my kids, like they have very small laundry baskets. So they get full very quickly. So I just always do their load as a quick wash.
But see, you also have 3 children.
Well, yeah, but I don't do all of their clothes together. I used to, and then it was a pain to separate it all afterwards. So now I do it all individually.
Yeah, no. Graceland's clothes get washed with ours.
Well, see, no, I can't do that because I put their stuff on a low dry cycle, but I don't like my clothes to be on a low dry cycle. So I do it on like a medium or high dry cycle.
Nope. Everything gets washed together. I do laundry way too often to be worrying about separating all of the things.
Trust me.
If I have enough towels.
Because I am separating everything, I am doing laundry all of the time.
If I had enough towels every single time to only do, there are times that I do just a load of towels and a load of clothes with no towels. But if I have almost a full load of clothes and just a few towels, yeah, I'm dumping them in there. I'm not waiting to have a full load of towels. Yeah.
Well, that was our 2 cents on laundry. And you know what is laundry?
All over the place.
Shirts. Thank you guys for listening again this week. And I want to mention, I don't know how many of you that are listening to this, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Amazon, or just off of our podcast website, but we do have an Instagram account at Girls Talk Shirts Pod. You can just type that in on your Instagram and you can follow us. We are slowly but surely figuring out how much to post, what to post, but having you guys follow us on there would be great. We update every week when a new episode drops, and we will also be coming up with other content to put on there as well. So please give us a follow. That would be amazing. And thank you guys for still listening to this episode. I know we got a little sappy. I'm sorry that I cried. I'm honestly embarrassed. But yeah, please tune in again next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. Becoming moms is what we have written on our list, but who knows what it'll end up being. I guess that in the natural progression of how we've been going, becoming moms makes sense. But yes, thank you guys so much for listening. This is Emily.
This is Savannah.
Thank you for listening to Girls Talk Shirts.